Hello. 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 I don't know why I always do. I do three wells. I do three wells and then three hellos. Whatever. Welcome to episode 85 of Brews Less Traveled, the podcast exploring the best uncharted beer scenes around the United States. I'm your host, Brian. How's it going? I'm joined this month by my always wonderful co-host, MC. How's it going, MC?
Hey, everybody. I'm great. I'm looking forward to another week in a really great beer town. Yeah, excited. Looking forward to these beers.
Yeah, definitely. So we're continuing our way through Fort Collins and the great breweries of northern Colorado. Today we're featuring Wiley Roots, a brewery located in Greeley, Colorado. Founded in 2015. We're going to be enjoying their My Name is Chile Lager and Deep Roots Porter. And I'm so excited because we're going to be joined by two awesome guests from Wiley Roots.
How's it going?
I was just getting ready to introduce you. Exactly. We're going to be joined by Miranda and Kyle Carbaugh, the co-founders of Wiley Roots.
Yeah. So let's say hi.
How's it going, guys? Thanks for having us on the podcast. This is a really cool concept, and we're excited to be a part of it. So, I guess introductions. I'm Kyle. I started out as a home brewer, and it grew beyond a hobby, and Miranda permitted that to I guess go down the path with brewing, and she fell in love with beer in the process. So I'll let you tell everyone about your journey. So
hello, I'm Miranda. I started, the process of just going to different breweries around Colorado with Kyle. And at the time I didn't drink beer. So, not only did I fall in love with beer, but just kind of the entrepreneurial journey. But I have a HR background, and so mainly do the operations and sales for Wiley Roots.
I also just did I'm not going to say background necessarily. I did HR for the past 3.5 years. So I was like hearing another HR person with HR experience in the brewing industry. We definitely need that approach.
Yeah.
Yes. No doubt.
Cool. Let's get started with our quick sip questions. Fast questions. Fast answers.
Should we quickly pour beer first?
No. Oh, well, the reward for getting through our quick sip questions is that we'll get into our first beer.
Perfect. Okay.
That's why they have to be quick. Fast questions, fast answers. MC,
we're all counting on you.
Feel free to pour a beer while we're
doing no. Go ahead.
So both of you feel free to answer both of these, either of these, but both of you answer, one of you answer. However, fast questions, we don't really have a plan for these too much. So favorite non-Wiley Roots beer?
The one in my hand.
Modelo.
Nice. Favorite peak in the Rockies?
Ooh, probably Pikes Peak.
Longs Peak.
Oh, both with the rapid fire answers. Wonderful. New England IPA or West Coast IPA?
Yes.
New England IPA.
Okay, so
like Kyle said, the beer in his hand.
Yeah.
Wiley Roots does have a big focus on sour beer, spontaneous, wild yeast, bacteria, all that fun stuff. So I ask, Cantillon or Dre Fontaine?
Oh, man.
Dre Fontaine.
Oh,
I think I'm going to say Dre Fontaine as well.
Okay. And then our final quick sip question. Have either of you ever seen Bigfoot, a UFO, anything inexplicable?
Ooh. I'm going to say no.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Shooting stars. That's pretty much the most unexplainable thing.
That being said, that being said, I'm not ruling out the existence of either.
Same.
Heck yeah. Cool.
I really can't wait for somebody in Colorado to say yes. Like, of all places, I feel like somebody's going to say yes to this question in the next couple of weeks, Brian. It's coming for you.
Or we're just gonna have to do Roswell, New Mexico as we did New Mexico, and I think we got one story. But anyways, MC.
All right. Without further ado, let's get started with this first beer, which Brian already told us is going to be that. Hi, my name is Chile Lager. So we'll get pouring this. Would you guys like to tell us about this beer? Anything you want us to know in particular about this beer? Tell us everything about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So this beer starts off with one of our base American adjunct lagers. We use about 5% of the grist bill as flaked rice, and goes through full lager fermentation into lagering. We lager this for about 4 weeks, and then we decided that we wanted to try our take on kind of a Chile infused beer. So we actually worked with a local farm to get freshly roasted green chilies. So it was a specific variety called Saguaro. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Kind of like the cactus, but I think it's spelled a little bit differently. And basically we got freshly roasted chilies and dosed about 150 pounds of chilies into 7 barrels worth of beer. So yeah,
very cool. I was kind of expecting a chili beer. This is more of like a lager with chili. Like I can definitely smell like the sweetness of like the grain, and then get like that vegetal bite and a little bit of spice there at the end. It's actually really well balanced for a chili beer. I usually take a couple of sips of a chili beer and I'm done. But I'm actually really enjoying this.
Yeah, we've done a couple of different chili beers. A lot of times we'll just use like dried chili powder. But we find that there's a lot of variability, especially even with the powder. You try to get it as consistent as you can so that the times that you use it, you're dosing and trying not to light people on fire too much. But what we found is with this specific varietal of chili, from batch to batch, year to year, from plant to plant, it has an incredible knack for consistency of heat and consistency of flavor. So it wound up being a great chili to use for this application, if you will, and because we really wanted to make sure that the base beer was still present. The chilies obviously are a key vital component. If you're going to say, hi, my name is Chile Lager, we want to make sure that it presents as such. But in the same right, we want to make sure that it doesn't completely overwhelm the fact that it's a beer. So, and yes, this is our take on a Run the Jewel shirt. So I've got the chat window up. I guess that's how you're supposed to do it. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, it's cool. Shout out to our Beer Club subscribers joining us in the chat. Great to have you as always. Yeah, like MC said, these flavors are so well layered in there. You get that very nice lager character in there, and then that chili comes through on the back end. Comes through really nicely on the aroma too.
Is there a food that you like with it? It seems like it would go really well with food.
Great question.
Yeah, I think it pairs really, really nicely with anything that would also, have chilies in it. Just because it's like, all right, here's one presentation of chili. Oh, but then you can do food aspects. I don't know. You've probably tried it with a couple of different things. So
yeah, I mean, from a beer standpoint, it's been really popular as a michelada. So just enough flavor without having so much heat that it kind of dominates the flavor profile. But I don't know, like anything really. I mean, tacos, we've had it with tacos and it's been enjoyable.
Yeah.
Yes, Taco Tuesday.
I'm very disappointed. I literally just had tacos like an hour and a half ago. I should have tipped got into this beer a little earlier.
It's the
so as yeah. So Wiley Roots, as we talked about earlier, Wiley Roots was founded in 2013. A time when craft beer was growing, but the market certainly wasn't what it is now. Can you talk about the catalyst for starting the brewery, and also, some of those early breweries that inspired you during those travels?
Sure. I usually take this this question, but I'm gonna let Miranda take this time.
Okay.
See if your take's any different than mine.
So yes, we opened in 2013, but it was really probably 2009 that, or I guess Christmas of 2008, I gave Kyle a journal that listed all of the breweries with a map. And again, at this point in time, I did not drink beer. And so I said, okay, well, let's go to all the breweries, which I think at that point there were 80 or 100.
Best
And
Christmas present ever.
yeah, and I was like, okay, I'm going to drive you around all these different breweries. And through that process, I mean, we didn't even get close, but we went to a lot of breweries, and just the culture and, you know, all of the people that we met, and through that process, yeah, just the beer was fantastic. And it was like, how are we going to be a part of this community? So, you know, it's 2009, and coming out of, or starting to come out of, the financial collapse, and, you know, we're in our 20s trying to get a loan to start this business, and that just wasn't a reality. So yeah, we lived on one income for 4 years till we could save enough money to, you know, have, you know, 100% of it owned. It's still 100% owned by the two of us. And so in 2013 we found a location. We were in Denver at the time, and Greeley had one other brewery of a town of 100,000 people, and it just seemed perfect to kind of go back home, hence like the roots aspect of our name. And Wiley is Kyle's nickname growing up, like Wiley Coyote. So yeah, we started the brewery. We're in the same location that we've been in July. It'll be our 10-year anniversary. So yeah, that's kind of like how we got the doors open, so to speak.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
10 years is certainly a feat for any brewery.
It's been interesting, very much so. You know, you mentioned 2013 being you know, it wasn't like it was the new dawn of craft beer, but it certainly isn't the landscape that it is today. You know, Greeley is a town of about 100,000 people, but it's kind of a town of two different cities. There's, you know, kind of like an older part of town, of which we're a part of, that's very slowly going through these I guess gentrification stages, which is interesting. You know, you look at scenes like the Rhino District in Denver, and many others around the United States, where it's just this rapid growth in these areas of town that can often wind up displacing people. Greeley's had a very concerted effort in not doing that. So you know, I think it's been interesting that you know, we are in an older part of town. We're in a part of town that probably has a little bit lower disposable income, but the other side of town is kind of the different side of that story. So back in 2013, there were literally there was only one other brewery, and so we ended up being number 2 of the current wave. And it's been very interesting to see the evolution of styles that we brew, from, you know, being the second in town to now I think there's 8 other breweries.
That sounds right.
So
and to add to the, you know, the dynamics of being in Greeley, Greeley was dry until 1969. So while our state has this really great advanced view and appreciation of craft beer, Greeley was definitely behind. I think we had brewed one of the first IPAs, you know, for our local customer base in 2013. And so absolutely, when we first opened, we were coming out with very 90s styles just to appease our local customer base. And since then, obviously, it's evolved. But to me, that was really beneficial, because we were able to almost have this playground to experiment and try new things, but it wasn't set with all these expectations of, oh, well, I don't like that because all IPAs or all, you know, whatever, it means that.
Yep.
So we've been able to be a part of the evolution of the palate of Greeley, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. I did see a question about the lack of head retention on the beer. Great question. That is 110% due to the oils inherent in that chili pepper. Capsaicin itself is actually an oil-based compound that's present in all peppers, but anytime you get any concentration of that, it will absolutely kill those foam positive proteins. So.
Good question. Yeah, I was wondering that as well. So Brian already mentioned there's, a real appreciation for sour beer in Colorado, and particularly old world sours fermented with wild yeast and bacteria, often utilizing like spontaneous fermentation. So in your opinion, where do you think that appreciation comes from, particularly in Colorado?
That's a great question. I
Mhm.
think, we've always had access to what I would refer to as better beer, Colorado in of itself, the state of craft beer, as the Colorado Brewers Guild likes to cite itself. We've always had access to all these different interesting things, but I think really for me, it goes back to what Peter Buchart did with New Belgium Brewing, way back in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s with La Folie. I think that was such a pioneering beer and such a looking back on it, such a cool risk to take of trying to bring this old world style, this old world intentionality with beer to a playground that made sense. So I think that's just a probably one of the hallmarks of why you start to see Colorado having this gravitational pull towards those styles.
Yeah, that's for those that don't know, the sour program at New Belgium. People know New Belgium, for Fat Tire, obviously, and the Voodoo IPA series is a juggernaut now. I think they have like 4 of the top 10 selling beers in the entire craft beer market. But their sour program is possibly the most prolific sour program in the country, and between Peter and Lauren and all the people that have shepherded that through the years, I believe they have kept a singular wild yeast culture alive for over 20 years that they originally used on that first few series of beers. And since then have released a number of just absolutely stellar and amazing sour beers that I definitely was thinking about when we put this question together. So I'm glad that's what you answered.
One might say there's a real culture of sour beers. See what I did there? I thought Brian would like that.
That was well done.
One of my favorite tote bags that I have. Yes, I have a collection of tote bags. One of my favorite tote bags that I have is one that I got at CBC in Denver. It says, bacteria, it's the only culture some people have.
That's fantastic.
Let's get into our second beer. We have the Deep Roots Robust American Porter. What would you like to tell us about this beer?
From a release standpoint, the Deep Roots was our second beer that we brewed.
Think about that.
Second or third?
I think it was our third beer.
Third? Okay.
Yeah,
So this
third
was part of the first core 4, if you will. And 7% ABV, non-adjuncted, robust, sweet porter. So a lot of counts really seem to enjoy this one because it's just very clean and I don't want to say unadulterated, but
yeah, I mean it's got those strong anchors back to some of I guess some of my absolute favorite beers. Deschutes had a porter back in the late 90s that was absolutely fantastic that I found myself drinking a lot of. And I think one of the fun things about that beer is it was the beer that broke our dreams of being the next nano brewery on the scene. We started brewing on a in that 2009 time period. We started brewing on a a 26-gallon more beer brew sculpture in my parents' old horse barn.
No way.
We were originally planning to launch professionally with that system. And at the same time, we had acquired these 7-barrel fermenters from Upslope Brewing Company out of Boulder, and had thought, let's just see how much beer we can physically make in a 24-hour period of time. So there we were in the horse barn. It was my dad and I just cranking out batch after batch after batch, and we got to 6 batches of beer on that 20-gallon more beer sculpture of what would then become Deep Roots chocolate porter, Deep Roots robust American porter. And it was murderous. I think we wound up with 22 hours and 6
Oh my
batches.
God.
Oh my God.
Not efficient at all.
I
So
imagine things have gotten a little more efficient since then.
yeah,
Yes.
120 gallons later, and yeah, we definitely took our lumps on that proof of concept and said we are going to have to do things a little bit differently if we want to have any kind of scalability and any kind of hope or promise of trying to get this going. So then we started going down the Frankenbrew route. Big shout out to Tom Hennessy for being one of the pioneers, the early pioneers that shared his knowledge and made the process of becoming a professional brewer a little bit more accessible. So
Excellent.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to ask about another sour question. Wiley Roots is known for their sours, although we're not drinking any of your sours tonight. What processes behind those beers have taught you about making things? You were just talking about efficiency, things like that. Are there any processes that you've learned about in order to make these porters and lagers that you're making now?
yeah, I mean, when we first started, more of these approachable foundational styles was kind of like our, that's kind of what we started with, and making sour beer actually came as a second to that. So we actually went in the opposite direction, that we took this foundation of very, I don't want to say pedantic beers, but very straightforward beers, and applied our process and methodology of making those beers to making sour beer, which is you kind of have to turn a little bit of your brain off and say, like, no, bacteria is good. Oh, wild yeast is good. And instead of trying to keep all of those things at bay. So we didn't really start making sour beer until, I would say, late 2015, early 2016.
Yeah.
And then it kind of took off from there. It was just, it kind of became a passion project, if you will, and it grew into
170 barrel mixed culture program and
Yeah.
Funkio Couch. And
we made a beer called Funkio Couch. It was a mixed culture Brett Saison that we fermented with a wild capture Brett culture, and that ended up winning a gold medal at the Great American Beer Festival in 2017, and then a silver medal at the Great American Beer Festival in 2018. So
Very cool. Very cool.
I don't know if that necessarily answered your question, but I think it's been this like the cycle of foundational beers that end up going off in this really weird I guess esoteric direction, and then we found ourselves kind of coming back around to making beers that are still influenced by that mixed culture program, but maybe are a little bit more approachable. You don't have to be really wading deep in the craft beer pond to or pool, if I guess I should say. You don't have to be an advanced swimmer to to get what we're going for in those more mixed culture esoteric beers.
Cool. And is that in like a second, do you have like another location, or how do you manage both of those things at one time?
That's a great question. This facility is a
We have
quagmire.
it's a couple different units. Our tap room and a couple of our offices, and then most of what we call the backspace. And then the catacombs is really our second cold storage. All of that is in Unit D, and then Unit C is kind of more or less like a totally different building, which is where our brewing equipment and then our clean barrel program is.
Yeah, so when we first started, we were in that first area. We were actually brewing in the tap room, which made it really uncomfortable. I think we were in about 800 square feet for our actual brew house. And in 2014, we took over that warehouse space that Miranda was talking about. That was contiguous. I say contiguous, but it was divided. And so that's where we put the mixed culture program. And we were able to keep things physically separated and passed work through a wall via piping and hoses that basically literally went through the wall. We called it the work way, and we would pass work through the work way and push it into our barrels and our mixed culture tanks. And so that way we were able to keep everything separate. We would maintain two absolutely separate what we call parts carts, so we didn't have any swapping of gaskets or clamps or fittings or valves or anything like that. So we kept everything completely physically separate. And then when we were offered up the space in Unit C, as Miranda was talking about, where our brew house is now, we jumped at the chance, and that was in 2018. So we moved our entire brew house from effectively the tap room over to a completely separate facility. And so now we in the event that we need to brew another batch of mixed culture stuff or anything like that, then we basically tote work back and forth. So it's almost like it was a offsite facility, but not quite. So.
And we were still on we started with a 7-barrel system. We were still on our 7-barrel system even when we moved it to this other unit until
2018, until
like a year and a half ago. Does that sound right?
Spring of 21. Yeah.
Wow.
Definitely been a series of evolutions and different
For sure.
different fits and starts. So
Yeah, it's always cool. One of my favorite things with craft beer is how breweries find a way to adapt to their space, whether it be just fitting into an old building in a downtown area that was never intended, built as to be, hold a brewery or, food production facility, let alone a complex facility like a brewery, and how people just find ways to adapt and use the space that's around them and grow, especially into the same community in which they were founded. It's great to see breweries, no pun intended, putting down roots and letting them grow in one particular neighborhood. Speaking of the brewery and the neighborhood it is, I do want to ask about this picture that I found on Google. It says it was from you. I hear that Colorado gets a lot of sun. I'm in Pittsburgh. We don't get a lot of sun, so I'm a jealous hater ass boy. And how often does it look like this at the brewery?
Colorado gets 300 days of sunshine a year, so I would say clear skies very consistently. We do have pretty magnificent sunsets, but to capture it kind of just like that, I would not say it's all the time. Would you say it would?
I would say you can find that probably 70 to 80% of the evenings between like May and October. It's pretty fantastic, and that patio space has definitely been, it's been it's beautiful. It's been transformed just as many times as the brew house itself, and what we are what we've found as passions for what we define the brewing program as at Wiley Roots. So
it was just a couple of patio chairs, and then in COVID, when we had to shut down, it turned into a literal drive-through where we would have cars kind of circle through, and We were still legally allowed to sell beer to go. And basically, we would take the orders online and run out the orders. And then when COVID, we were able to reopen. We installed this 5,000 square foot patio with AstroTurf, and we added the seawall.
Yep. A throwback to a vacation that Miranda and I were very much inspired by in 2018, where we visited a bunch of distilleries in Scotland. So
people talk about the aluminum shortage during COVID and all these other things. Nobody talks about how the patio furniture people like made a killing from the brewery industry.
Oh my goodness.
Or the outside heaters.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that was a big problem. There was a huge shortage of those for a little while, I remember. Yeah.
We gobbled up a lot of those. So
yeah, I'm sure that was a popular spot.
Yeah. One of the fun things about the brewery and about where we're located and about how we both kind of grew up, obviously both of us are products of the 2008 financial crisis, and coming out of that and trying to be as resourceful as we can be. So a lot of our patio furniture was built on site. So we actually built it ourselves. So, and it kind of shows at this point, the wood's a bit warped. It was definitely 2020 vintage wood. Not the highest quality out there, but certainly some of the most expensive stuff I've ever bought. So
high value wood. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I do love that question. Are you hiring or adopting?
I've already been adopted by Miranda, so
We're currently in the market for adopting, but
yeah, hiring is one of those things where we're located in a college town, so we we get a lot of people that are in a very specific stage of their their progression in life. So always one of those things where we'd love to keep people as long as we can, but they're also doing things like graduating with degrees and going on to their own professional lives. So keep an eye on wileyroots.com. We usually have our job postings posted there. So
we before COVID, we were a team of 4 or 5, and then within 8 weeks we were a team of 17. So to grow that much as a company that quickly in the middle of a pandemic was absolutely crazy. And now we're probably, I'd say, 9 of us. Most of our staff have moved to full-time, so that's just why we have a few less people, is some of our bartenders have been able to move to full-time, which is great for them, great for us. And we're a pretty small team.
It's awesome. So we talked about
HR nightmare. That's honestly, we wouldn't have been able to do any of that if Miranda didn't have her experience in HR. But it did not come without a whole host of road bumps. So,
and I'm really not just saying this, we really do have an excellent team.
We do.
Yeah, as somebody that worked for a company that experienced a 200% staff growth during COVID and was responsible for the HR. Yeah, I feel for you. And
that growth in that short of a time absolutely was challenging from an HR standpoint, just from like our processes and training, and being a team of less than 5. Kyle and I had direct contact with every single person that worked for our company, and then to suddenly jump to 17, there was a layer there. There was a different group of people that were, managing other teammates. And so Kyle and I weren't, for the first time in our company, managing the day-to-day for every single person. And that dynamic, it's huge. It's I think necessary sometimes for growth, but it was definitely challenging for sure.
Yeah, and I think in a lot of situations like that, it's really hard. It's really easy for brewery owners that have been so intimately involved in the brewery for many years to be hesitant to give up that managerial or that decision making to people, and that's also crucial for growth. And it sounds like that worked out for you, with being able to bring more people on full time, and sounds like more people have more responsibility, and that's also crucial to growth, especially during trying times like COVID or financial collapse.
To have this idea or a vision of what you have and what you want and what you want to be as a company, and to try to have this other person that isn't related to you, isn't married to you, didn't start the business, to give that up, but also encourage that same love and dedication. It's very, very cool when it works well. And I think sometimes it just takes time, but absolutely it's letting go of every single part of the details, because otherwise you're going to go crazy.
Yeah, shoot, just getting on the same page with you and I on sometimes, like, and things in the brewing industry, and especially during COVID, move so fast that, you know, trying to get on the same page, you know, number one, trying to get on the same page in the brewing industry, and then, you know, with the number of things that were changing on what felt like a daily basis in the middle of COVID was, yeah, it was not fun. I don't want to do that again. I don't think anybody wants to do that again.
No. So we've talked about the beer scene a lot. We've talked a little bit about the beauty of Colorado. Many people know Colorado for many things, but what is one thing that you both wish Colorado was more well known for?
That's a great question.
Is your question something that's true about Colorado that most people don't know, or something I wish Colorado was better at that it's not?
I think my intention of the question is the first, but I like the latter interpretation as well.
I'll take the first then.
Okay.
I think the thing that Colorado should be known for but isn't is and I think anyone that's visited, or better yet, anyone who's flown to Colorado has experienced this. When you land at DIA, you are not anywhere, like you could barely see the mountains, right? So like you're out here on these plains, the amount of you know, spatial diversity, but also like, you know, I don't know, just diversity in general. Like Colorado's not just all mountains. It's got its beauty in its plains. It's got you know, some really cool stuff, obviously ski country and all of that kind of thing. My family has property in Estes Park, which is really fun because it's got that close proximity, but at the same time, you know, driving there from Greeley, it takes an hour and change to get to. But in Greeley, we're pretty much flatlands. We're very, very much on the edge of the flatlands, I should say. So something that's true about Colorado that isn't necessarily known is just how diverse that landscape is, that you can be in effectively the Eastern Plains in the morning, and then skiing in the afternoon if you really want to. So it's pretty crazy.
I'm trying to think. I feel like Colorado is definitely, I don't want to say the wild, wild west, but kind of like it just has this very Western adventurous spirit. And I think it incorporates this idea of traveling and adventure, and yes, you know, being outdoors, but just the spirit, I think, that everyone has that lives in our state. It's just very adventurous. So that's what I would say.
I as somebody that's driven from Nebraska into the northeastern part of Colorado, Kyle, I can 100% confirm the flatness and the beautiful plains, and you know, I've also seen the Rocky Mountains and actually a lot of Colorado. MC, we didn't ask you last week. You lived in Fort Collins. What is something that you wish Colorado was more well known for?
Yeah, I lived in Fort Collins for a short time. Gosh, you know, something I really miss about Colorado, or about living in Fort Collins, is there was a lot of not only really great beer, there was really great food. I worked at a little taco restaurant called La Luz downtown. And it was like not Mexican food like I had before. It was like New Mexico style Mexican food. And that's kind of what this green chili beer made me think of. There was like a green chili sauce that I had never had until I lived in Fort Collins. And I think that sometimes the beer kind of outshines the other like culinary things going on. So I think people should be more excited about trying restaurants in Colorado as well.
Yeah. I think one of the absolute one of my absolute favorite things in that vein is Colorado has it's a state of people that generally came from other places. My family's one of a handful that I know of that's been here for 100 years. So with that being said, you get all of these culinary influences from all these different places throughout the country. So like we actually have an on-site pizza truck, if you will, who he got his start in of all places, Florida, in the culinary scene, and then came out to Colorado, did some fine dining stuff. But it's and I try not to be too biased and try to be relatively neutral in my assessment of pizza. But it's some of the best pizza I've ever had. So it's great. So yeah, to your point, food scene is fantastic out here.
Yeah, I will go out on a limb. Best Mexican food I've ever had, and that's I've had some very good food in Colorado, but I'll never forget the Mexican restaurant that was in the Rhino district. That was phenomenal.
Oh, nice.
Before I went and had a boot of lager at Bierstadt. Miranda, Kyle, thank you both so much for joining us. Anything to plug before we get out of here? Where can people find Wiley Roots Beer?
So the best way to find Wiley Roots Beer is to go on our website. We actually have what we called the Wiley Finder. Great name, right?
He's right there. Sorry. I'm kidding.
So it's not a locator for me. It's actually for the beer. But you go
Miranda put an air tag, like one of those Apple air tags in your pocket, and it's just
the air tag.
all issue.
Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, you go online to our website, www.wileyroots.com, and then click on the Wiley Finder. Type in your zip code, and you can find a list of any of our retail partners that we've recently distributed to. That being said, we are always refreshing that, and sometimes we don't get to it as fast as we would like to. So check back, and that's going to be your best way to find our beer nearest you. As far as events and upcoming happenings at the brewery, obviously social media is going to be the number one place to find us. Facebook and Instagram, both Wiley Roots Brewing. You can find us occasionally on TikTok, where we're making dumb videos, which
to put on TikTok.
It's the thing you got to do these days. So I would say those are kind of the hot spots for us. So
cool. Wonderful. MC, final thoughts.
No notes. Thanks for being here and for sharing a couple of really great beers.
Thank you all.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having us.
Yeah, and thanks again for supplying beers for this episode and for our beer club. Would you like to become a member of the beer club? Not you, Kyle and Miranda. This is me plugging now. Would you like to become a member of the beer club and get great local beers like these shipped to you monthly? Head over to brewdivana.com to explore subscription options, and you could partake in next month's beer if you order quickly. Boy, I hope that's true. Sorry to the shipping department if that isn't true. We'll be back next week with another great Colorado brewery. We're featuring Crooked Stave next week.
Nice.
But until then, stay safe, be kind, and support local breweries. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks for watching Brews Less Traveled on YouTube. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more interviews with brewery professionals.